Rev up your engines!
Well, here we go again with electric car companies going down the toilet. Rivian just says that their losses were bigger than expected because of higher costs and lower credit income, right? Rivian has always been losing money. They reported a higher than expected quarterly loss. It's bad enough, like if we didn't make as much money as we expected. In this case, we lost more money than we expected. They have always been losing money, right? They're saying that the Chinese curbs on the export of rare heavy metals that they use for the motors, increased materials cost, are driving up the cost of EV production in the U.S., and now they're losing even more money than they expected. They're now saying that for the entire year of 2025, of course, we're halfway through it, right? The entire year, they expect to lose over $2 billion. Well, that's just insanity. These electric car companies, they keep losing money because people don't want them. Now, maybe it's because Rivian's cost too much. Electric cars have enough range anxiety and all that crap, but they're expensive cars. Use your own noggin. How many Rivians have you seen driving down the road? In my entire lifetime, I think I've seen 4 of them. And I drive all over the country, right? So you may never even have seen one going down the road. But they claim that they delivered 10,000 of these things in the last quarter. That's a 22% decline from last year. So they keep telling us, oh, we'll buy more electric cars. They'll become normal. Hey, they didn't buy that many to begin with. Now they're buying even less, especially these Rivians, right? Now they said they were going to deliver 51,000 of them this year. Now they're saying the whole year. Well, maybe they'll deliver 40,000 of them. So you make expensive electric cars. People don't want them anyways. They cost too much. Now they cost even more. So it's no surprise that they're losing more money than they thought. So much for Rivian. And one of these days, it'll probably go under. Unless the government subsidizes it with Trump in. There's not much likelihood of that. Well, Toyota reported a 37% drop in profit. They're saying it's due to Trump's tariffs and more cost to stuff. Toyota profit plunged 37% from April to June quarter of 2025. Okay? Now, it's still a profit. They went from making 1.33 trillion yen to making only 841 billion yen. So they still made $5.7 billion profit, right? But the funny thing is this. The quarterly sales of Toyota cars rose 3%. Now, Toyota's not a stupid company, right? What are they doing? They're selling more cars, so they're doing it right. In the long run, if anybody's going to hold on, it'd be a company like Toyota. Decades ago, they sold pickup trucks in the United States at almost a loss because they said, we want market share. And people started buying the little bitty Toyota pickup trucks. Now they drive the big, giant Toyota pickup trucks, and you got to fight to get them, and the price of them is high, the resale value is high, because they think long-term in Japan. Their philosophy is, I studied in college, their philosophy is, we want long-term customers, and we want to keep them happy, we'll keep perfecting things, and that's what they did. So I wouldn't worry about them having a problem. This isn't Stellantis, where they're losing billions of dollars. No, they're still making $5.7 billion a quarter. They're making a profit, right? And they're selling more cars. To them, there's probably a bump in the road, right? To Stellantis, it might be a giant cavern that they're falling into that they may never make it back from. Two different companies, completely different setups. A little bump for Toyota, but a giant chasm that Stellantis is falling into. Well, here's a hilarious one. Tesla is being sued for securities fraud over its robotaxi launch. Turns out that Tesla shareholders are suing Tesla, Elon Musk, and a few of the former and present leaders for securities fraud for their robotaxi launch in Austin. You're thinking, what the heck is going on here? Well, they're saying that the company failed to disclose risks to regulators, to the public, and to investors. They allege that Tesla and its executives, of course, including old Elon, made materially false and misleading statements, inflating the company's stock price by exaggerating the readiness and safety of its self-driving vehicles, particularly the robo-taxis. Now, the robotaxis have had problems in Austin, right? And 1 2-day period, it led to a 6.1% drop in Tesla's share, which means $68 billion in market value went down the toilet. $68 billion, right? That's overvaluated and everybody knows it. Now, they're saying that they launched the self-driving robo-taxis in Austin, Texas. And they're saying the vehicles reported exhibited dangerous behaviors like speeding, sudden braking, driving over curbs, entering wrong lanes, dropping passengers off in the middle of multi-lane roads without proper safety measures, right? Now, they can sue the company for that, right? Because they were hiding information. And of course, they're always making up stuff in the stocks. People don't understand it, right? And it is a real thing. Now, Tesla's got a lot of money for lawyers, so who knows what's going to finally happen. They'll probably fight it for the next 10, 15 years. They have more of an endless supply of money, where the class action lawsuit, they only have a certain amount of money they're going to spend after that. Even if they win, they won't get any money because Tesla would then contest it, go to the next court and the next court and the next court. But I find it funny that their own investors are suing them for lying to them. Well, you were dumb enough to invest, and that's all I got to say. I have no sympathy for you. Well, here's some more bad news for the electric car supposed revolution. Shell has now shut down their Volta EV charging and media division. Volta Charging started as Volta Media in 2016. They said they were worth $2 billion on their IPO, right? They have a network of over 2,000 charging stations. Shell bought them, right? And now Shell says, we're shutting it all down. Now, their idea was a really stupid one. One, they had the fast chargers. But they thought they were going to make money because all the fast chargers had, you guessed it, digital screens running advertising. And they thought they could make a bunch of money selling advertising to people. And that, of course, fell totally through. Everybody is annoyed when you go to the gas station, at least everybody I know, and you're pumping your gas and there's running a stupid ad and you're trying to ignore it like, oh, geez, they're even trying to get me to want to fill my car with gas. Well, they thought that they could manufacture a bunch of ad money for running this on their electric chargers. But, of course, they didn't. And you know why? Because hardly anybody uses them. When I recently went from Rhode Island to Tennessee on my road trip, I saw electric chargers. I didn't see anybody plugged into them. The New York State Thruway now has a few electric chargers, and you got to stop for gas, right? And every time I stopped and filled up the matrix with gasoline, I would see 4 to 6 electric chargers there. Not a single one had ever been in use. They're not going to get much ad revenue when nobody's using the machines, right? So Shell thought they were going to make money on this. And guess what? They didn't make any money. Now they're shutting the whole thing down. They keep telling us, don't worry, there's going to be more charges. Well, now there's 2,000 less of them because they're shutting them down. So listen, old Scotty, you want to buy an electric car? Do it in the far future. Maybe Toyota will have solid-state batteries, and it'll be a thing. You get 1,000-mile range. Who knows what the future will bring? But presently, it doesn't exist. Don't waste your money on those things, especially if you are planning on driving any type of distance. Well, Honda's new car that's not a Honda just started production in Ohio. If you didn't know, Sony, the big electronics company, and Honda have gotten together to make electric cars in Ohio. They're now starting to build what they call the Afeela 1. Now, what kind of a name is that? Afeela. Afeela, this is a car, one, right? And they're saying they want to get the idea of feeling, and so they put Afeela 1. What a stupid name. But again, most electric cars have stupid names anyways. Regardless of that, they're starting to build these things in Ohio. These aren't mass production. These are made one at a time now because they want to get it up. And it shows that Honda's got a lot more brains than some people think. Because if you remember, Honda had a deal with GM making electric cars. And the electric cars that Honda sold in the United States so far were just rebadged GM electric vehicles. Well, Honda's not stupid. They're like, we know GM makes junk. That's a stopgap. Now, they're not dealing with GM anymore. Now, they're electric car alliances with Sony, who knows quite a bit about electronics, right? If anybody can make a good electric car, it would be Honda and Sony mixed together. Now, it might be years and years and years before they're readily accepted in the United States. But if anybody is going to make a car, even if it's got a stupid name, Afeela 1, Afeela 1, Afeela something coming. You know, what a stupid name, right? But if they're going to mass produce those things in Ohio, electric cars with Sony and Honda, they'll probably sell quite a few of them. GM, of course, is left in the lurch with this one. So guess what GM is doing? GM now is starting an alliance with Hyundai. Now, this is where I have to laugh my rear end off on this because GM's making bad decision after bad decision, right? So now with Mary Barra, their head CEO, with the hollow head inside, quick, we need a new alliance. Let's do it with Hyundai, let's do it with the Korean companies. Notorious for making crappy cars. The engines, transmissions blow on them, right? So Honda said, bye-bye, just like they did with GM years ago. If you know the history, GM, their Saturns, even though they were Saturns, GM still owned the company. They were using the Honda V6 engines, which are great engines. But Honda said, you have to use our coolant for these engines. They're special. And GM said, no, we only use our Dex Cool GM coolant. So we're only going to put that in your Honda engine. So Honda said, okay, we won't sell you engines anymore. And that was the end of that relationship. Well, the electric car relationship they had with GM, that's fallen apart already. And now they're doing it with Sony. It would only make sense. Electric cars, Sony and Honda, I could see that. Maybe in the far future when electric cars are regular, if we have enough power, if we have enough infrastructure, this could take decades, right? But Sony and Honda, instead of GM and Honda, the guys at Honda, hey, they got some people that are pretty smart. We'll use GM in the short run to get a few electric cars out to appease people. And they actually sold more of the Honda electric cars that were just rebadged GM than GM sold themselves. Just because of the name Honda. All right, Americans drive a lot. You might not believe it, but in 2023, which is the last year they had records, Americans drove more than 2.9 trillion miles. That's a lot of miles, right? Well, who do you think drives the most? You might be surprised at who drives the least. Youth between 16 and 19. Well, I think part of it is because they don't have any jobs, so they don't have to drive back to a job and work and drive around, because most of them are working, right? But who drives the most? Guess what? Men between the ages of 34 and 54. They put in 44% more miles than the average American. You know why? Because they're working. They got a job, and their job might be driving, right? Driving a business vehicle. Maybe they're salesmen, they driving to work, driving back from work. So some of the things in society still kind of stay the same. And the young ones, like I say, they put in a whole bunch less. Now, some of that is, things are so expensive now, they don't have any money unless they have rich parents. They don't even have a car. It costs too much money, right? So they're not driving because they don't even have a car. And they can't afford the gasoline either. So that's probably part of it. But the 34 to 54 men, they're out there driving away, just slaving away, driving. Now, people are always wondering about AI. Is it dangerous? Well, in this case, it can be really dangerous. Doctors were horrified because Google's healthcare AI made up a body part that doesn't even exist in people while it was doing a diagnosis of the guy's brain scan, right? An AI model that was called MedGemini, they were showing off the AI analyzing brain scans from a radiology lab. And, eventually, instead of having doctors, they'll probably have AI analyze the scan. And it said there was an old left basilar ganglia infarct. And it referred to the part of the brain, the basilar ganglia, that doesn't exist in the human body. Now, you can't trust this AI. For example, the other day, just for kicks, I Googled my wife, Leslie Kilmer, right? And it said she was a mechanic. So, she puts gas in the car. That's as far as it goes. You can't trust this stuff, right? They say, well, the AI probably meant the basal ganglia. But it said basilar ganglia infarct. So that's quite often. Then they try to say, well, it was a misspelling, right? Well, how can you misspell basal as basilar? You're adding a lot of letters there, right? And imagine somebody being operated on, the doctor goes by what the AI says, they take out the wrong part, or where is that part? I can't find it. Well, maybe it's this piece over here, Google just blamed it on a simple misspelling, but that shows you all kinds of problems. And of course, we're dealing with a lot of different language models too, right? Because it does all different languages. Imagine lost in translation, maybe from English to, say, Dutch or something. It completely screws it up. We need people, especially doctors, I don't want a robotic doctor with AI slicing me open. Let me tell you, I don't want that to happen, Well, you can only think of Terminator horror stories with that one, You can't think that it's not going to make mistakes, right? And now it's saying there's something wrong with somebody, and the thing doesn't even exist. So, yes, be careful what you ask for with AI because, hey, artificial intelligence, the first word, artificial, that kind of tells you something, doesn't it? You might have seen the news that NASA wants to build a nuclear reactor on the moon? Now, wait a second. They want to electrify cars. We need electric power. All this AI stuff is using power like no tomorrow, right? We need a little more electricity. How about build more on Earth first before you go to the moon, right? Now, they're using national security as an excuse, saying, look at the Chinese. They've landed on the moon. Oh, my God, it's another space race. We got to put nukes on the moon so we can have people permanently there and have energy. Can you imagine what it would cost to build a nuclear reactor on the moon? For example, in China, to build a nuclear reactor, they spent $2 per kilowatt hour. $2, right? You know what we charge? Costs 15 cents a kilowatt hour to make a nuke plant here, and this is on Earth. Imagine going to China. So it's no surprise that if the Chinese do go on the moon, guess what? They'll do it a lot more economically feasible than we would, right? But really, come on, people, we need power here on Earth. And as old Tesla found out, he was the one who wanted to send electricity wirelessly and found out it didn't really work on Earth for a very long distance. And the moon's like, what, 250,000 miles from Earth, so they're not going to run cables, and they're not going to be able to send it electrically. You'll only be able to use on the moon. So, hey, forget the moon. Build them here on Earth first, please. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.